what you've done. You are a great inspiration to other women, and not only women, but I would say the entire race of people, because of like I said, just not giving up and not letting anyone tell you you can't do something. So tell us, I know we're going to be talking about, because I mentioned the fact that when you came back, you were in over $845,000 worth of debt. Your house was sold, and you had to figure out, as a single mom, how to get rid of this debt. So that's kind of where we're going to be going today. So tell us why it's so important for women to have financial stability.
It is so important for women to have financial stability because for most of the women in our world today, including the United States of America, most women in this nation and throughout the greater world do not have financial stability. And financial instability keeps a lot of women trapped in toxic relationships and chained to toxic jobs. And that financial instability and the financial issues of women grow dependent not just because of being a woman, but also by gender. So, for example, in the workforce today, white women tend to make 80% of what a white man makes for the same exact work. I was about to say even worse, Latina women make about 60% of what a white man makes, and black women make about 40% of what a white woman makes. A white man makes, all for doing the exact same work. So when you have all of this kind of gender disparity with finances, not only are you more susceptible to those toxic relationships and those toxic jobs, but
Mhm.
also you now have a harder hill to climb. And then add on top of that the desire for many of us to leave the next generation better than what we had. And so then this becomes part of a cycle that feels so hopeless and difficult to break. And when I went through what I went through to get out of that debt and to be able to retire from the military and be home with my family, one of the things that I learned is that it absolutely is possible to win with money no matter how late you're starting.
Wow. Now, that's a large amount of debt. $845,000. I mean, most people probably would have just threw in the towel and just said, I just don't know what I'm going to do. Hey, I just kind of put their head under the cover and hope it would go away. So tell us maybe a few things that you did to get rid of such a large amount of debt.
All right, I would love to. And if you'll indulge me for just a second, a little bit of a public service announcement. I know that I was so honored to be on your show because of the work that you've done in the federal space, and I know that you're also a veteran, but I was like, "Ooh, I remember her back when I was working at Ditcher in the Pentagon."
Oh
So
my
if
goodness,
you
really?
if you'll just indulge me a second, a lot of military people come home to this same scenario. Now, the numbers may not be as high. I've met two people who had even more debt they came home to than I did, but
Mhm,
it's a common scenario for a spouse to come home from a military trip and they have signed to their husband or wife the power of attorney that gives them the rights to make all decisions on behalf of that military member while they're gone, while they're underway, whatever it is, a service they're serving in, and they come home and that spouse has bought a car, a new house, they've got a new man or a new woman, and they leave that military member high and dry. It's a unfortunately common scenario. Thankfully, not as common to have as high of a debt as I had. But
mhm.
in those moments, it was so very humbling because here I was at the time that this happened. I was a major in the Air Force and I made really good money.
Mhm.
And not only did I make good money, but also there is a stigma. I don't know about the Navy or the Army, but at least in the Air Force, there's quite a stigma about military single moms. And so I found that the helping agencies that we often refer people to, that I would often refer my troops to, those helping agencies were not available for me. I either made too much or they were dependent on military spouses. And so, aside from my church, which really did help cradle me through some of that time, cooking for me and giving me things for my clothes for my son at the time, I really did feel hopeless. And I
Mhm.
had two accountants and a JAG. The JAG, for those of you who don't know, that's a military attorney, tell me to walk away from that debt. But
Wow.
because of my technical background, I would go into the security officer and say, okay, if I walked away from this, can I keep my clearance? No,
No,
you wouldn't keep your clearance.
no.
Okay, a few years later, okay, if I walk away from this, can I keep my clearance? No, you can't keep your clearance. And I couldn't afford to lose the only job I knew how to do. I mean, I probably could have made a life. Now, that's one thing I've learned about successful people. When
Hmm.
you are successful, you will find a way to be successful in any lane. But in that moment, there was only one job I knew how to do, and that was to be a physicist in the Air Force. And
Hmm.
that job required the absolute highest levels of clearance, even beyond top secret. So at that time, I didn't have any vision of something else that I could do. And I really did feel hopeless.
Wow.
And I'm just so thankful. I'm just so thankful that by putting one foot in front of the other and taking advantage of the things that I had within my reach, more things began to open up. So let me tell you something that you might be very surprised at about that debt.
Okay.
The first 120,000 of it was consumer debt. He had run up credit cards in my name.
Hmm.
And I attacked that debt. No kidding. I had a Mary Kay business before this happened because I liked their makeup. I had an Avon business because I loved that skin so soft. I
Hmm.
had a Discovery Toys business because my kid was smart and I wanted to nurture his toys. So I took those three multi-level marketing businesses and I worked them to death. And it wasn't much. It was maybe about 3, 4, 500 a month, but it was something. And then I discovered that I could pick things up at the base thrift store or other consignment shops that hadn't sold,
Hmm.
buy them in their clearance bags. So maybe $2 paper bag on Fridays, all the stuff that didn't sell in 6 weeks, they just clearance it out. I would swoop it all up. And if the original person tried to sell it for $20, I would come around and sell it for 15. If somebody was trying to sell something for 10, I would sell it for 8. And I made thousands of dollars a month. I didn't know it at the time, but it's called picking. You go get storage sheds, you go to yard sales or things like that. That's literally how I got out of that first $120,000 of debt.
Wow. Out of here. I mean, but like you said, that just takes that's perseverance. That's just someone who did not want to give up. And that's kind of one of the things that I also always tell women, that you don't never give up on yourself. Because basically, even though, your husband made the debt, if you had given up, you'd been giving up on yourself.
That's right.
Because he had already enjoyed what he was going to enjoy, so it wouldn't have really
Look,
affected.
he's still enjoying some of it
Wow.
13 years later. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So when you say
Woo,
that,
incredible praise.
when you went to the JAG officer, which is the attorney, and they told you no, you couldn't walk away. For the viewers, when you say walk away, it's like filing bankruptcy or whatever. And when have those types of clearances, no, you can't keep those clearances, because at that point, you can become vulnerable to maybe out what they consider outside influences. And so,
Mhm.
someone want to come and try to get you to give away military secrets because they know that you're in debt. So that's one of the reasons why they told you that you would not be able to keep your
Exactly.
clearances, and because of if you walked away, which would have, of course, been the easy route. But hey, like you said, and having those clearances, those, believe it or not, they are valuable. They're valuable because if you have wanted to do something else or go someplace else after your military career and keep that, type of stay in that field, then those clearances would have been an asset to you. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. I am just, like I said, I am just, so when I saw that $845,000, I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done, but it's like you do what you have to do. And that's the thing about women. We are so resilient. We tend to do what we have to do to get it done. That's for sure. Wow. So tell me, what stops professional women from becoming financially stable?
Well, there's three main things that I have found with my professional clients, and I mostly work with women. I work with everybody. Look, I'm gonna take anybody's money, and I'm gonna help anybody win with money. But mostly women are drawn to me, 40s plus. And what I found with most of my clients who are professional, three of the biggest things that stop them is one, it appears to be too complicated. And that's not always our fault that money appears to be complicated, because we have had a lot of programming, both culturally and through the current media, that money is complicated. For those of us who are my age or a little older, you will remember a time when women weren't supposed to be in the books, and women weren't supposed to have businesses, and we weren't supposed to do a whole lot.
Hmm.
And my lot in life, I was supposed to grow up, and I was supposed to be someone's husband, and I mean someone's wife, and I love being someone's wife, and I was supposed to have children, and I love having children, but I wasn't supposed to know anything about a whole lot of things, and I wasn't supposed to have any book smarts or knowledge smarts. And my dad used to always tell me, take your nose out them books.
Yeah,
No man's going to ever want you.
yeah, yeah.
The only disrespectful thing I've ever said to my father in his life while he was on earth was, aren't you glad I didn't listen to you about taking my nose out those books?
I know that's right.
so,
You
so
thought that decision. Yeah.
but the world has changed so much. And I was talking with some young girls the other day, and they were like, well, what do you mean you couldn't drum because you were a girl? And what do you mean you couldn't do this because you were a girl? And I realized how much the world has changed. But
Mhm.
for my mature professional women, many of us have been taught that money was too complicated for us to understand, and it's too much for us to understand, and don't worry your pretty little head about it. And so we grow up with those, even if we resist them, even if we resist that, and even if we go on to accomplish great professional things, that
Mhm.
programming is still in the back of our mind.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
another reason that professional women tend to struggle with money or fail to achieve, for despite all of their other accomplishments, is because they are, quite frankly, worn out.
Mm.
Busy working your job all day long, come home taking care of your family all night long. When can you squeeze in some time for spiritual growth? And oh my goodness, now we're supposed to have self-care. Like, self-care was supposed to be a thing to liberate us. This
Mhm.
whole self-care movement was supposed to help bring joy and gladness into our life, and some time and peace. But all it did for a lot of us was add one more thing to our to-do list for us to feel guilty about not getting done.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes we feel like money can take too much time. And that's why I like to work with people with what I call a women's wealth matrix. And so the matrix is basically, we look at your personality, where you fit in, and what works for you. So if you're somebody that likes really complicated spreadsheets, and I have not received any clients that likes complicated spreadsheets, I'll just throw that out there. But if you do, I got them. And if you want things to be easy peasy, and you only want 4, 5, 6 categories to put your stuff in, I got that too. We can take care of you. I get a lot of people who feel like, oh, I'm a free spirit, I can't
Mhm.
manage money.
Mhm.
No, I can show you how to manage money. We customize it to you because you're busy and you don't have time to stress about one more thing.
Wow.
So the third thing that I think keeps professional women from succeeding financially, and
Mhm.
this is the one that really breaks my heart the most, is because despite our drive to achieve and accomplish, a lot of times we are not intentional
Mhm.
with our time, with our treasure, or with our talents. And so we spend our energy on things that ultimately aren't important. We spend our money on things that ultimately aren't important.
Yeah.
We spend our time on things that ultimately aren't important. And at the end of the day, we're exhausted for nothing. And so this really feeds into the other two, but it becomes more of a lifelong symptom. So one of my mentors used to tell me, how you do anything is how you do everything. And
Everything.
I disagreed with him at first because I had all this professional success.
Mhm.
But at home, my life was a shambles. And in my personal space, I was not happy with who I was. And it was reflected in my money. We can only hide our discomfort and our discouragement and our hopelessness for so long. It will come out somewhere. But once we're intentional and focused, now it multiplies our money to do whatever it is we need it to do.
Wow. Now, since you've since we've been in this pandemic state, have you seen a lot of women coming to you that are now trying to get out of debt? Because I know when we were all in, home, had to stay home and not go anywhere, they started saying that people were using their credit cards and charging things a lot and different things like that. Are you seeing that a lot now with women coming to you trying to get out of this debt that has been accumulated over the last, say, almost 2.5 years?
I am starting to see that. I think people are still in somewhat of a honeymoon phase, thinking that things will work out. I have quite a few people who ask me about college loans, and they're all excited about the possibility of these new forgiveness plans and other financial products and services that are coming to alleviate the burden. And
Mhm.
so, unfortunately for me, from my perspective as a financial planner, I'm not seeing enough drive. I'm not seeing enough people wanting to take that bull by the horns. I'm not seeing enough people wanting to be intentional. I'm still seeing more people than I feel comfortable with in my communities that I serve, who are kind of sitting back and waiting for government or the circumstances to take care of things. And so it is concerning to me as a financial planner. But you are correct. At first, man, it was an easy sell when I
Mhm.
was telling people, save your money, save your money, save your money. And then after about 6 or 7 months into the pandemic, shop, shop, shop. And
Mhm.
and here's the worst offender that people have been coming to me about. All these pandemic businesses.
Mm.
We all started these pandemic businesses, and I had a business, but I started new streams of income through the pandemic. And some people knew that business has a cycle and
Mhm.
everything goes up and down, and you have a trend and you have a situation and you maximize it and you move on. But some
Mhm.
people didn't realize they were going to have to plan for a time when there was no pandemic.
Right.
And that's catching a lot of people by surprise right now financially, because they've poured a lot of money into starting this pandemic business. And in the beginning of the pandemic, it was on fire. Everybody was watching my show. Everybody was subscribing to my courses. Everybody was coming to my Zoom training classes. I mean, it was just packing it all out. And now, JJ, I don't know what to do. People aren't coming. No, because people are tired of it.
Exactly.
People aren't paying. No, because people are tired of it. It was a good run. Figure out how to adapt and continue to serve them. But too
Exactly.
many people are still, well, if I just buy one more thing, if I just pay for one more to speak at one more event, if I just, and
Mhm.
and we have to look at what's real and what's going on right now.
Wow. Well, I know that a lot of speakers and coaches focus on multiple streams of income. Do
Mhm.
you believe that everyone must become an entrepreneur?
I love multiple streams of income, and I'm probably one of very few financial planners that I know who will not push people towards everybody has to become an entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurship. This is my 17th business. I think my family is finally happy they found one that stuck more than 2 years. But I just have that entrepreneurial spirit ever since I was a kid on the playground selling bubble gum, to make a little spending cash.
Mhm.
That's just who I am. But you
Mhm.
have some people out there who despair, and they come to me and they're like, I know what you're going to say. I need to open up a business and get an LLC and do this and do this and do that. And so I comfort them that, again, what I do that's different from a lot of financial planners is I work with your personality. What kind of personality do you have? What energizes you? What affections do you need? How much control do you need in your life? We look at all of those facets. And you've got people who are educators, and this was, I mean, I had this one teacher who was in tears because she had gone to so many different people and they just kept telling her the same things and it just didn't work for her. And she told me how good she was teaching high school history to juniors and seniors,
Mhm.
and how she interacted with the kids and made history real. And so many of them consider her a mentor even long after they graduate. And I was like, as a parent, I'm going to need you to stay in the classroom. So
Mhm.
let's figure out how you can stay in the classroom, because you're in a jurisdiction that doesn't pay its teachers enough. And so while I am a huge fan of multiple streams of income, that doesn't mean you necessarily need to become an entrepreneur. It can mean that you can take advantage of ways to use your talents in the gig economy. So for her case, we looked at ways that she could tutor, and her school had a tutoring program. She doesn't have to worry about payroll. She doesn't have to worry about advertising. She didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. She just had to use her talent where it was good. We
Mhm.
also looked at how she could how she could write a book about her experiences and how to really get into the classroom. Because I did try to slide in, you could consult with other teachers who need to know this. And she's like, I've tried it. It's just not my thing. Okay, but here's how you can allow people to consult with you on a global level. That's a set it and forget it. You write the book, you put it in Amazon, you get paid, it's done. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I will say, you know this as well as I do. Writing a book is not how you make a lot of money. There is marketing and
Right.
there is all kinds of other things. But she had
Absolutely.
something really good to say, which makes it easier to market and easier to get in the hands of people that want to read it.
Okay.
So
Wow.
yes, I am huge on entrepreneurship, but there's always, if that's not your jam, there's always another way. There's always another way to win with money. I've
Ab-
got people who are financially independent on disability. And I'm
Wow.
not talking about military disability. I'm talking about the $700 a month. That's all you get from the local government disability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they're financially independent after 5 years.
Yeah, because I've known people who said they don't want to be in business. They like working for someone else, and I don't know if that's because they just don't want that responsibility of having to run a business, or or they just prefer to just go and do their 9 to 5 and go back home and then didn't repeat that cycle the next day. I don't I never did understand that. But like you said, there are people that really maybe don't have that business mindset and they don't.
Well, and then some people just get their energy differently. So
Mhm.
one of the assessments we do with people is the FIRO-B, and the FIRO-B measures your need for affection, like you
Mhm.
want people to say happy birthday to you, and your desire to provide it to others, right? Your need for control, how
Mhm.
much control do you want over your life, and how much control do you want others to have over your life? And
Mhm.
then it also measures your need for inclusion.
Okay.
So is it important to you to be part of the group? Or is it okay with you, or is it okay with you if you're not part of the group? And if you are the leader, how important is it for all your people to be part of the group? Because everybody has different things. And I was actually in the military when I got certified in FIRO-B, and it was hilarious because he went around the room and everybody had one profile, and
Mhm.
very few people had a high need for affection. And I'm the scientist girl. Like, these are pilots and HR people. And so
Mhm.
I'm the one scientist in the room. And he was like, JJ, your need for affection is off the charts. And I'm sitting there like, what is this man about to say? Don't make me cry in front of my peers. And he goes, I'll bet you give out birthday cards to everybody on your team, and then you get sad when nobody says happy birthday to you. I was like, yeah, sometimes, maybe a little. I'm like, I'm not gonna cry, not gonna cry. But he was right, and he was dead on. He's like, look, I'm gonna need you to understand that nobody else cares. They
Mhm.
don't care if you say happy birthday to them or not.
Right.
It's not a character flaw on their part. It's not a character flaw on your part. It's just how you're made, and it's how they're made. And ever since he told me that, I still give out birthday cards, but I'm not going to be upset if somebody doesn't do something nice for me, because I know sometimes my smile is the only Jesus people see all day long.
So, oh my goodness, that is too funny. Yeah, that I never thought about it that way, but that makes sense.
I
That
felt very bad for the colleague who was a leader in the Air Force, but really wanted other people to have a high degree of control over her life. And
wow.
she's a very personable person, so she made rank, and she does what she does, but everybody was shocked. But you could see it in the thing, because she would never be the one to move forward and
Right.
charge and break something new. She was always in a consensus building and letting everybody else take the lead, which you might think is a poor leadership trait. But if you've got a bunch of egotistic leaders, then sometimes it's really good to know how to build a consensus. So we
Mhm.
look at all of those kinds of things when helping somebody
Mhm.
build wealth and become financially secure, because it could be that you are in a job
Mhm.
and you have a different need for inclusion or a different need for control than the people perceived leaders in your field, and
Mhm.
we can tweak some behaviors, just like in what you've written and what you've done. We can tweak some behaviors, and we can make sure that people are able to project what they need to project, and
Yes.
then nurture themselves for when they need to nurture themselves.
Wow.
It all feeds into your financial stability.
Wow. That actually that really makes sense. And like I said, I never look at it quite that way. I never thought about it that way, but that does make sense. So, how can a woman advance if there are few of her gender or race to mentor her?
I love that. I love that. Thankfully, diversity is becoming more common. Not only diversity as far as gender and race and things like that, but also our ability for inclusion. People of differing abilities and things like that are really getting a foothold in the corporate workspace and academic space, and so, to some extent, and maybe not as many inclusion issues, but to some extent in the military. So you are finding it more common to be able to locate mentors and advocates who look like you and have shared some common experiences and struggles that the general populace may not have shared or experienced. And so, but if you're like me in a field where nobody looked like you and nobody had your gender, until I was a lieutenant colonel working at Ditcher was the first time I worked with another female physicist, and they weren't even Air Force. So you have to look for opportunities and understand that those mentoring opportunities may not come in a package that you're accustomed to, and it may not come in a culture that you're accustomed to. And so I have found mentoring from people who have very different religious views from me. I have found mentoring in different areas from people who have very different political views as me. I found mentoring in areas of people who had very different ideas of how to spend their social time than me. But if they had this piece to offer me, and that's what I needed to become a better leader, then I was going to ask for their assistance in those areas. And I found that there were those people that, especially when I was in the military, you ask the commander for a mentoring session, they begrudgingly oblige you and put you on the calendar, and you're sitting there for 15 minutes, and you can tell this guy don't want to have nothing to do with you. Okay. All right. That's a dud. But most of the time, because I was bold enough to ask the question, or even just make the appointment, or just humble myself and say, I don't know how to do this. Right. And I know that's you got to be careful with that, especially, people would think in the government, in the military, oh, everybody just gets along, right? Because we're all for the greater good. We want to take care of the nation. But, especially nope. In the military and the federal, where we're all doing the same thing, people are looking for a way to stand out. So you have to be careful about that. But I have found that doing that kind of outreach and being willing to learn about the person that is mentoring me has taken me very, very far. Mm-hmm. And especially if I'm ever able to go back and thank somebody, which, being military and having moved every 2 or 3 years, sometimes that's a little difficult. But there are times where I have thanked people for their mentoring or thanked them for their advice, and they have been reduced to tears. And it's always an amazing feeling when I can do that for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, I rarely have anybody who isn't my gender or doesn't look like me come to me for mentoring. And because we're so accustomed to thinking that the only people we can form bonds with are people that we resemble. Yes. And that's the research shows. The research shows that people, I'm in a doctoral program right now. I'm in my research phase, and the research shows that people mentor people that remind them of their daughters, remind them of their sons. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how can you make yourself into that category? I just want to encourage people not to take themselves out of the running, because more times than not, the people that I approached about mentoring, they were receptive. I even had one boss who was probably the worst boss anybody ever had, and he was a terror. I mean, people were on medication. And as the safety officer, I literally had to come to him and say, sir, I'm your safety officer and I'm your suicide officer. And I need you to know that your leadership style, there are people here who are about to check themselves into mental health, but they're on these and that medication. And we have one person that I've reported who is a threat to the workplace because they are determined to do something to you. Yeah. And that kind of boss, even that boss, when I went in for mentoring, how come all these other people are getting school slots and I'm not? What do I need to do to get a school slot? Mm-hmm. Even that guy who couldn't stand me gave me the last school slot that year. Wow. So, and the reason, when someone else asked him, well, what did you give her the slot for? Because she came into my office and she advocated for herself. Wow. So I want to encourage you, even if you're quaking in your boots, even if you're just not sure, do like the women that you have seen on the Success for Women show have told you, and get out there and grab what you want out of life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you see a lot of, or do you have a lot of female veterans coming to you, especially for the financial part of it? Because I know that they get, like you said, services, even though they may have those services on the base or whatever, sometimes they're not always as effective as maybe someone like you could be helping them out.
I do get a fair amount of military. I will say it's not as much as I would have liked. And I think that's because the nature of my career and the rank that I had on a lot of Air Force bases, I was one of the highest ranking people on base, even at Lieutenant Colonel. And
Mhm.
so, it's kind of difficult to want to go to somebody who is the chief of protocol and they're 4-star general's right hand man. I'm a gal, right? So, wants to go to the deputy chief scientist. Like people didn't want people didn't want to expose themselves to someone who had a direct seat at the table. And so there are other financial planners with military background who have served more military in their past than I have, but I'm okay with that. I offer free coaching to military active duty members. I offer free coaching to Gold Star and Blue Star families. And so those two avenues are how I do get most of my military people.
Wow. Wow. Well, this is definitely, you've given us some great nuggets. We're going to take a break. As you know, you're listening to our viewing the Successful Women show. My guest is JJ Conway, and we are going to take a break and come back and listen to some more of her great nuggets that she is sharing with us today.
Hi, I'm JJ Conway, and I want to welcome you to Building Wealth Together. This conference will help you shatter limiting beliefs, equip you with the tools you need to succeed with money, and give you the confidence that you can win with money. It's never too late to win with money. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter what anybody says about you. You absolutely can win with money. I came home 12 years ago from a military trip to find my house sold, divorce papers, and $845,000 of debt in my name. As a single military mom, I had to learn how to hustle, and I learned how money worked and how to make it work for me. This conference will help you learn how money works and how to make it work for you. You're going to learn how to bust through all those preconceived notions about whether or not you can succeed. You're going to learn how others are making money and how you can get some of that. You're going to learn how to create multiple streams of income. You're going to learn how to invest. You're going to learn how to invest in real estate, in crypto, and all kinds of esoteric things that you thought were only for the super wealthy. It's for you. And I'm telling you, we're going to do it not only in an easy to understand, easy to follow format, but it's going to be, every one of my speakers has committed to be, it is absolutely 100% going to be ethical and moral and repeatable. 12 years later, from that $845,000 day of devastation, I am a full-time mom and entrepreneur. I wouldn't change my life for the world. And I hope that one day you can say that you are financially independent. I'm JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together.
As women, you and I will contribute more to our organizations, more to our families, and more to our communities. When we show up to rise up, everyone wins.
Well, welcome back to the Successful Women Show, where you're viewing us on Pod TV. And my guest tonight is JJ Conway, and she has been giving us some great nuggets on wealth building together, and just kind of letting us know how you can persevere and still get rid of some of that debt that you may have accumulated, and that it's not, it's not something that you need to consider walking away from, but it's something that you can do to get rid of. So again, my guest is JJ Conway, and welcome back again to the show. So JJ, you were telling us about the of women being able to advance even though they didn't have people that look like them sometime to mentor them. And I know that that's always a problem, not just, it's a problem everywhere in every arena, with women a lot of times not having that someone to really guide them and lead them and mentor them into the things. Because I remember ago when I got laid off from the telephone company, and that was the one thing that my mother's friend told me. Well, she asked me if I had had a mentor, and I told her no. And that was one of the things she said, that could have been the problem, because you didn't have anyone to guide you and look out for you and tell you, kind of let you know what was coming down the pike. So, great advice to make sure that you always have someone in your life to, kind of bounce things off of, not necessarily telling you what to do, but you always need someone that can maybe share their experience with you sometimes to help you to get around some of those obstacles or challenges that you may face. So having a mentor and a coach, a sponsor, all these things are very good. And so just make sure that you realize that. And when it comes to your financial stability, of course, we have one of our experts here tonight that's telling you how she did it. $845,000 worth of debt she was able to get out of, bounce back from. So you definitely want to hear what she has to say. That's the purpose of a mentor, making sure that they've done what you want to do or what you need to do. That's the purpose of having that type of person in your life, a mentor, a coach. When you look to these people, you want to make sure they've done what they're advising you or helping you through. So what made you focus on women, though? Is it because of your experiences, the experience that you went through? Is that why you tend to really just focus on women?
Well, that's an interesting question for me, because up until a couple years ago, I did not focus on women.
Hmm.
But when I decided to retire from the Air Force, I wanted to get my family together. My husband was in one state, and me and the boys were in another. And we decided that because of finances and the nature of his career, it was better to stay in Texas. And quite frankly, I live in a town where predominantly men are not very receptive to being educated in these kind of topics from a woman. And so that was a strategic change that I had to make in my business. And having been somebody who was in the military and had a business for since 2001, I've learned how every base you move to, you have to adapt. So when I was in the DC area twice, I could charge very high prices. I would put something in meetup and they would just pack out the class, and I would sell out immediately, and people didn't even know who I was.
Hmm.
Then I moved to the South, and Louisiana was a little bit different. I couldn't even pack out a $25 class because nobody knew who I was. Nobody was expecting financial advice to come in this package. And that was just the nature of that neighborhood, where it's a gambling town in Shreveport, and there's always a bigger, better deal. So with those three factors, I had to change how I did business. So I'm accustomed to making those kind of pivots. And I tell you, I'm actually glad that living where I live now kind of forced that issue, because it's allowed me to dig deeper into women's issues and really get at the stem of cultural issues that lead
Hmm.
to the women's issues. So for most of my time, when it comes to helping people win with money, we look at how can we manage your money better? How can we help you have more worth at work so you can get promotions and get bonuses and things? How can we help you start a business or create multiple streams of income? And then once you've arrived, how can we help you leave that to the next generation without all that fighting after the funeral, right?
Mhm.
but I had never delved into the cultural issues. And it's really systemic. You've got so many cultural and abuse issues and trauma issues and all of those things that play into women's relationships with money.
Funny.
And when you come up in a male dominated career field where you're not working with many women, you never see that side of it. And that's why I feel like women need a special space to really be able to process. And that's why all of my Women Building Wealth Together conferences, the Women's Wealth Summit, that's why they always start off the first day or the first afternoon, the first morning, with healing and overcoming trauma and understanding the impact of trauma on not only us, but our future generations. A lot of us are in financial bondage, not because we're not smart enough. It's not because we didn't have the opportunities. It certainly isn't because we don't work hard, because we absolutely work hard. It's because we've got these residuals of the trauma our mothers and our grandmothers and everybody before us went through when it came to finances.
Mhm.
And we have to overcome that and forge our own way forward.
Wow. Wow. That is so true. So you mentioned your conference and your summits. Do you have any thing coming up in the near future that we should know about?
Absolutely, absolutely. We have in November the Women's Wealth Summit coming up. It's at womenswealthsummit.com. And some people, if anybody in your audience already followed me, they might note that we did a Women's Wealth Summit in May.
Mhm.
But what we have decided to do is the overwhelming response is that we will conduct summits 4 times a year. Now, just so everybody knows, next year is going to be our 10th anniversary of the Women's Wealth Summit. So
Okay.
I haven't picked the location yet. I'm submitting some requests for proposals, but I tell you what, it is going to be a big to do, and it's going to be the same dates, November 8th through 10th. So strap on in, hang on, and let's get this thing done, because it is time for us to put all of our hard work and energy into changing communities. That's why a lot of us do what we wanted to do. We
Mhm.
wanted to change people's lives. We wanted to change our lives,
Mhm.
not just go to work and be miserable.
Yes.
It's time to elevate, and it's time to enjoy life and enjoy the fruit of our labor.
Absolutely. And that way, when you decide, I want to retire, if when I'm 55 years old, you can walk out that door and not have to look back, because you've gotten everything in place where you can be able to do that. I
And
mean,
not only that, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that's a great feeling. That is a great feeling.
And
Hmm.
it's not only that. This is one thing that that was revealed to me as time has gone, with some of the struggles that I had at the end of my military career. And that's a whole nother financial discussion, what people go through at the end of their military careers.
Hmm.
But what I realized, or what was revealed to me, was that even if something devastating financially were to happen again, and I pray it never does. I pray I got all the lessons I needed to learn out of that season of life, and I never have to go back to it. But if I do, I am confident that these financial principles that I have lived out and that I teach will allow me to pick back up, dust myself off, and get back in it again. I don't have the stress, and I'm not worried. It's not because I think my bank account's going to be there tomorrow, because money can be here today and gone tomorrow. But I have the skill set and I have the network to make sure that I'm never going hungry again. My kids are not going to go hungry. My future generations are going to be well placed to do everything that they want to do, if they take advantage of those opportunities. And that's a confidence that many of us, even people with millions of dollars in the bank, don't have. And that's what I want for every one of your listeners.
And that's what you show them in your coaching. Wow, that is phenomenal. So tell us, if you had one piece of advice that you would leave with our viewers, what would that advice be, regarding finances or whatever it is that you want to leave them advice on?
If I could only leave one piece of advice. Oh, hey, look, I'm open to Oxon Hill. Look, I got property in Brandywine, Prince George's County, up in
Once you
Baltimore City.
get the
Look,
heart,
I'm here for it. Give me some concessions and some amenities, and we will take the conference back to its roots in the DMV. Woo-hoo-hoo.
that
All
would be great. National Harbor. That's just around down the block for me, so it wouldn't be far at all.
Okay, so one thing I would leave everyone with is a lot of times it's really easy to believe that our sister, our brother, our children, our mom can succeed, our friends. It's really easy for us to believe that there's all this greatness and abundance for them. The very first thing that we need to do before we can even be intentional about using our money and about doing the things that we are called to do, first we have to believe not only that there's abundance in this world, but that some of that's for us.
Yes.
We have to believe that some of that is for us and it's okay to go for it.
Yes.
So I would encourage everyone on the line today, whether you're watching live or watching after the fact, take a look at your life. Take a look at your intentionality. Take a look at where your results are flowing. Not the result you're getting in this moment, but where's the flow? I had all those letters after my name, and I had all those accolades military wise, and I had a nice little piece of rank on my shoulder. But my trajectory was going downhill because I had never believed after all that time that it was for me. I had listened to the naysayers of my past. And it didn't matter how many marathons I ran, I was never good enough. It didn't matter how many committees I chaired or how much funding I got for this program, I was never good enough. It didn't matter how many poor programs I resurrected, I was good at that. You know, the bosses would give me something that was trash and I would turn around and turn it into gold. That was what I was good at, but it didn't matter because inside it was never going to be enough until I felt like I was enough. And you are enough today.
Wow.
So I'm going to encourage you all with that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, viewers, you have it from JJ Conway. You know, I've always told you never give up on yourself and always believe that you are valued, you are worth it, and you can do it. So she is telling you the same thing. I had one of our viewers, Adrian Bennett, telling her that she should bring her conference to National Harbor in Oxon Hill, Maryland. And I want to thank my viewers, Renee Willett, who's always supporting us and always putting some inspirational things out in our chat room whenever we have a guest. Want to thank her for also being out there in the audience. And again, you've been listening to the Success for Women show. We're here every Friday. My guest tonight has been JJ Conway. And in case you did not hear me when I first introduced her, she's now a lieutenant colonel or retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force. And she was the first Black to serve as a physicist in the Air Force, despite being told by the Air Force that Blacks can't do physics. So now, with that kind of naysaying and with that kind of enthusiasm that she has shown us tonight, we know that we can push forward and we can persevere because she has shown us an example of how to get out of $845,000 worth of debt. Now, most people would have, like I said, would have buried their head in the sand and walked away. She did not. She persevered. She got from under that debt. And now she's showing others how to do the same thing. So I want to thank you tonight for being on the show. It has been great. I'm telling you, I am just in awe. I really am. And it was just a pleasure to have you here to have a conversation with you, for you to come and share with us. Let us know again. You said your conference is going to be in November. Did you have the dates for that, or?
Yes, November 8th through the 10th, both this year and next year, November 8th through the 10th. This year will continue to be online. Next year will be a hybrid event. womenswealthsummit.com.
Yes. And tell us how we can reach out to you. If any of the viewers want to contact you, how can they reach you?
You can find me on most social media as at JJ Knows the Way. On TikTok, someone got that one because I dragged my feet, so it's at JJ Knows the Way Real. But most social media is at JJ Knows the Way. And you can also find me at buildingwealthtogether.com.
Wow. Thank you so much. Again, this is the Successful Women Show. I'm Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, your host. If you'd like to reach out to me, you can email me at info@exwsi.com or go to my website, which is www.exwsi.com, and make sure that while you're there, download my free 3-part video series on 3 things every woman should do to position herself for executive leadership. This has been a great episode. Make sure that you share, share, share. Make sure you like this episode and also subscribe to our channel. And I think, JJ, you have a YouTube channel also, don't you?
I sure do, at JJ Knows the Way.
Go out to her YouTube channel and subscribe also, so that and she's got some great videos out there. I took a look at some of them before she came on the show. So she's got some great videos out there that you might want to take a look at. I also want to let you know about, the Black Business Olympics will be coming up September 18th through the 25th. And it's a 7-day, 24-hour event from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day for those 7 days, September 18th through the 25th. And of course, the Black Business Olympics showcases Black businesses, Black business owners, thought leaders, and corporations for that entire 24 hours, 7 days straight. So it also serves as a fundraiser for students to obtain scholarships and also to get laptops for them to go to school. So make sure that if you have a student that want to apply for one of the scholarships, you can go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. But also make sure you mark your calendar for September 18th through the 25th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days, like I said, 7 days straight, 24 hours. You'll be able to get a lot of resources. You'll hear a lot of business owners talking about their businesses, the things that they're doing to help the community. It's just a phenomenal event that you don't want to miss. Also coming up in September, which is September 9th, is our monthly Entrepreneur Connections event, which I am one of the hosts for that. And it's from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. It's always the second Friday of every month. And this is for women business owners. And you will be able to tell everyone what you do, what you might need for your business, and also how you help others in your business. You have to register. So to do that, just email me at info@exwsi.com. And of course, I always make sure to let you know to go and take a look at my TEDx talk. You saw just a little clip of it during the commercial. If you'd like to see the entire TEDx talk, is on my YouTube channel. Just put in Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, and you'll be able to see the TED Talk in its entirety. I'm so excited. It's almost at 100,000 views. Yes, I'm excited about that. So help me to get over that hump to 100,000 views. My goal is to reach 1 million plus women with this TEDx Talk. So that's why I'm so happy that it's definitely getting up there, and I'm happy about that. So make sure that you go to my YouTube channel, take a look, make sure you like it also, but look at it in its entirety. And again, you put in Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, and it'll come right up for you. Again, I want to thank my guest, JJ Conway, for being here tonight. She has just given us some great nuggets. I just can't thank you enough for being here. This has been the Success for Women show. We are here every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, helping women to accelerate the path to success. I want to thank you all again for joining us. Thank you to my guests. I love you all to life. As always, be well and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.
What if you could build your own city? A place where every child can find nurturing people to help them achieve their full potential. A place where every adult can access job training support. Where health education is abundant. Where social justice ruled the land. A place without limitations. Welcome. You have arrived at STEM City, USA. It is what every city should be. A safe and trusted community where you find people and resources to help you become everything you are and beyond. STEM City is unlike anything you have ever experienced. It is a digital twin of the world around you, only better. STEM City is about energy and soul renewal. It is more than a digital world. You can almost feel the power of live cultural events, music, and theater. STEM City promises a better future for children with caring mentors and hands-on activities with dedicated tutors to support our youth. STEM City is your passport to a healthy lifestyle with weekly events addressing our community's many issues. STEM City is your financial well-being with helpful information on wealth management, career advancement, job training, and so much more. STEM City is the community you deserve. It is the city where your dreams can come true. STEM City USA, a place in the sky that is accessible to all who reach for the stars.